Members of Congress of the House are being briefed today on intelligence that Iran and Russia have obtained U.S. voting information. This after the Director of National Intelligence made an overtly political assessment last night at a news conference. Joining me now, House Intelligence Committee Chair, Congressman Adam Schiff. Thanks very much for being with us. First of all, when did you first hear about all of this?
Well, I first heard about this yesterday. My staff was given a briefing. I was briefed on an unclassified basis, and we set up a call for this morning with the director, which we just concluded. So we had certainly general information about what the Russians and Iranians were doing, but had an opportunity to drill down further on that today.
Are you satisfied that, first of all, that Iran is the lead actor here on these fake threats to Democrats from the Proud Boys, that is an Iranian op and that Iran is the perp?
I don't have any reason to question that Iran is behind these two efforts in terms of this video that the intelligence community disclosed Iran was pushing out to sow doubt, raise questions about whether there would be fraudulent ballots mailed from overseas. That disturbingly amplifies false information that comes from the president. It also is, I think, in a very sinister way, aligned with the Russian propaganda. Russia is also pushing out false information about the absentee ballot process and trying to create the same doubts that the president has. So I don't have any reason to question that Iran is involved in the two actions identified by the intelligence community, and that Russia continues through a variety of platforms to seek to interfere in this election through cutouts, through the laundering of information through willing members of Congress, through overt media and covert media, and it's definitely a situation where voters beware.
Was the Director of National Intelligence correct to go on camera and issue this warning?
Well, look, I think
election.
Yeah.
He also, and let me add to that he also said specifically that it was aimed at hurting President Trump, and that has raised a lot of questions.
Well, we have asked for a fuller briefing of the Gang of Eight on that particular assessment by the director, that commentary by the director. We'd like to see the underlying intelligence that supports that conclusion. Pushing out information that calls into question absentee ballots, I think as a practical matter, that helps Donald Trump, that amplifies his false narrative about absentee ballots. The emails that were purportedly from the Proud Boys, the Iranians using the Proud Boys as a false flag operation, you could see that cutting in either direction, either intimidating Democratic voters or enraging Democratic voters. So I'd like to see what the intelligence is behind that conclusion that the director expressed. But I will say this. What has unfortunately cast so many questions about the disclosures we're getting right now is what's led up to them. And that is the director has been willing to, on a political and selective basis, declassify and make information available publicly in order to suit the president's interests. And when he establishes a pattern of doing that, it's very difficult to tell, okay, is this particular announcement credible, or is this part of an effort, once again, to carry water for the president? So I think it requires us to vet each and every statement that comes out of the Office of the Director of National Intelligence. I would much prefer, frankly, if these briefings were conducted by Director Wray, who I think has credibility on both sides of the aisle, and I think is willing to speak candidly and keep the FBI out of politics.
And speaking of that, there's a report in the Washington Post, and certainly we've seen every indication the president is really eager to get rid of Chris Wray at the FBI. He's got a 10-year term appointed by this president, but a 10-year term to keep him out of politics. But do you think Chris Wray's job is in jeopardy during the lame duck even?
You know, I think anyone that does their job faithfully in this administration puts their job at risk. Anyone who is not willing to overtly carry the president's water, he has successively chewed up and spit out until he could find someone more malleable, more willing to do his will. That has been, sadly, the trajectory in the Office of the Director of National Intelligence. And I have no doubt that the president would like to see people in every position, including at the FBI, who will merely do what he says, regardless of whether it damages the institution, is inconsistent with the facts, is contrary to the public interest. So I think anyone willing to stand up to him and do their job is at risk in this administration.
Well, you have certainly stood up to him, and he can't fire you, but he certainly has gone after you again in North Carolina last night. Do you have any understanding of why he has targeted you? I could play this tape and just ask you to respond to it.
I saw Adam Schiff, this guy, the watermelon head. I say, no, he's like a watermelon head. You have no dummy, no dummy.
I mean, I know you led the impeachment committee, but he's the president of the United States. You're the chairman of the Intelligence Committee. You'd think that he wouldn't be, and I'm not sure what he meant.
Well, Andrea, the childhood, kind of insults are one thing. It's just demeaning to the office of the presidency. But what was more concerning at that rally and at others is the president saying that the chairman of the Intelligence Committee should be locked up, leading a chant of lock him up. At one point this week, he said that something should happen to Adam Schiff. There is no disguising the threatening nature of those words. And we have seen the president's words incite violence. And we have seen terrorist plots, for example, the kidnapping plot against the governor of Michigan, a result of the climate that he is creating. And so, we have to take these things seriously until there's a tragedy. We don't want to wait for that to happen. And they ought to be condemned by people on either side of the aisle as being dangerous and destabilizing and unpresidential in any way.
And ordering his attorney general to indict his opponent and his opponent's family. Indeed,
this is the
and his
stuff
predecessor.
of tin pot dictators, Andrea, not a president of the United States.
Thank you very much, Adam Schiff. Thanks for being with us today, Congressman.